I just pressed the let's go live button, and so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we got to make sure these tubes are connected, lest we be speaking into oblivion. But it looks like they are connected. That's tremendous news because we got some serious business to attend to today. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Fani Willis, the biggest Fani in Georgia, and her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade. We've got a bunch of stuff to dig into, starting off with the response from Fani Willis and Fulton County. Of course, we've been spending a lot of time here talking about Mike Roman, the co-defendant to Donald Trump and one of the 19 co-defendants in the RICO case brought by Big Fani out of Georgia. And of course, he submitted a motion to disqualify her because she's allegedly got this pretty intimate relationship with Nathan Wade. You remember this guy. And it's not allegedly anymore, okay? They confirmed it today in this filing that they have a personal relationship. Isn't that something? But have no fear, my friends. Their personal relationship does not taint the case. It show taint a bit a problem for Fulton County. And so we're going to talk about that. Now, this is a big, long filing, but her actual response portion of it's not that long. We're going to go through it and see what's inside. They attached a bunch of stuff. We also have an affidavit from Nathan Wade where Nathan says, no, we didn't commingle any funds. I paid for my stuff. She paid for her stuff. This was all above board. There's no pay for prosecution, nothing like that. Of course, we're going to get into it. And someone dug up this clip, the Maze account on X, found this clip from Fani from some time ago saying, you know why you should elect me? You know why? I'm not going to misappropriate money and I'm not going to sleep with my employees. We're all sitting here going, yikes, that didn't last that long, did it? Yikes. So we're going to go through that, see what she said. Donald Trump is responding to all of this as well. He posted a truth over on Truth. And then we were going to remind ourselves that we've got a hearing on this full thing happening February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. So these two little lovebirds will presumably be in court to talk about all of this and more. And so we're going to go through the filing and see what is inside. Then we're going to see what happened with Congress today, because Fani is catching it from another end from Congress. And this was a letter from Jim Jordan and the Republicans sent over to Fani Willis saying, guess what, Big Fani? You are subpoenaed. Oh, man. So Congress wants to know about those federal funds. You know, a lot of federal money was being funneled out all over the country like disgustingness. And it was ending up in the coffers of people like Big Fani Willis, the biggest Fani in Fulton County. And she said that she was going to use it to clear up her COVID cases, all the backlog from all the COVID, because the courts shut down. They're like, oh no, a pandemic. And a bunch of lawyers all over this country made me sick, all saying, yeah, let's lock them down. I'm going, what the heck is going on here? Anyways, it was a wild time. But they were supposed to use this COVID money to close the gap, to actually finish their prosecutions. Maybe, turns out, maybe she just used it to go on cruises. We don't know. And Congress wants to know. And they have a right to know, and we're excited about what that letter says. Now, you remember there was also a hack that happened in Fulton County. Apparently, some of their systems went under the water because of hackers, and I don't know what the deal is, but apparently it didn't affect the Trump case. We'll see. We're going to read this article, see what's inside. And Fani Willis is not going to be stepping down. Sources are reporting, I think, to CNN, saying she's sticking around. She's, she's a victim of racist attack by people like me, And so she is going to persevere and continue to sleep with Nathan Wade and paying him for prosecuting Trump at the meantime. It's all going to just train right on the track. And so we'll see what is happening there. Now, I actually have a little bit of a contrarian take, I think, maybe on this. Maybe it's not so contrarian. I don't know. But I'm not so sure we want Fani going anywhere, if you know what I mean. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that. She's kind of a real big gift here that I think might be very useful when she, it's like, hey, let's have the trial in October. Let's do it. Yeah, Fani, you lead the trial. Let's watch this thing go down. So we'll come back. We'll talk about that, why I think that might be a good angle here. But then we're going to talk about Jack Smith. We had Representative Luna in the House of Representatives send a letter over to him and we'll see what's inside of it. She's pretty agitated with him. She sent a letter to him, and then he had one of his minions respond to it. And she said, oh, that's interesting. Why is he responding to our letter to you, Jack? We addressed it to you, not to your little peon. And so she sent another letter. She's demanding answers. She says, Jack, you got 9 days to respond, buddy boy. And so she gives him a little bit of a scolding, and we'll see what that looks like. Then we've got some more platitudes from these lefties. So I dug this one up. George Conway, he's talking in platitudes. We kind of have this pattern we've been talking about lefties talking in platitudes. This one was pretty clever because he's talking about the things that his party has done to go after Trump. Like, that's the evidence, right? So I always criticize these people because they don't actually point to evidence. They just say Trump's a narcissist and he's never going to leave office, and so on and so forth. And what's your evidence of that? Well, he insurrected the country. Okay, but then he left the office, right? So what's your point? So, you know, this is like round and around they go. They don't really have facts to substantiate their claims. But this one was curious because he did come up with some facts, but they were facts from the weaponized prosecutions. He's like, yeah, look what happened to Weisselberg, the CFO from Trump organization. And you say, yeah, the same guy who's also a part of Letitia's prosecution. Yeah, what's your point? That's also a part of your entourage prosecuting Trump. It's not, it's not actual evidence of anything. So we'll go through it. We'll break that down. And then Donald Trump, apparently, when they were doing depositions, he told Roberta Kaplan, he said, hey, Roberta, thanks for deposing me. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Tuesday. You know, he said that apparently. So she was on George Conway's podcast, because George Conway has a podcast now all about Donald Trump, because they all do, because this is their life. But she was on it, of course, and she was explaining what the deposition looked like. And apparently she didn't know what it meant. So Trump's like, yeah, it's nice talking. I'll see you next Tuesday. That's very Trump. We'll go through it, and you can be the judge of what you think about that. But my friends, we got 3 good segments to get into today, and we're grateful that you are here and with us. I think we're also bombing Iran right now. I don't know. I think that we're bombing them. I don't know. Is World War III starting right now? I don't know. I mean, we're going to talk about Big Fani today, but I think there might be, World War III brewing. I think we're bombing Syria, dozens, hundreds dead. I don't know. Biden's doing it. I don't know. I don't really have any role in it, but Biden's just, this is his diplomacy. We've got, the adults are back in charge now. So that's happening. Someone let me know if there are mushroom clouds, on the United States land. Let me know in the chat. I'll appreciate it. But today, my friends, as soon as we're done here, we are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only stream. And demagoguery. Demagoguery is another good word. Yeah, demagoguery. So platitudes, demagoguery, that's another good word. Thank you for that. Yeah, King Ginger. Platitudes, demagoguery, polemic, false dichotomy is another good one. We were talking about this morning, about the right word for what is it these people are doing. It's demagoguing. I think that's probably the right word. It's platitudes, but with platitudes can be a little, like fluffy. It's like, we're all going to win because we're working the hardest. And you're like, that's not really how it works. Like, that's kind of a nice platitude. But a demagogue is kind of the opposite, right? Trump's going to end the democracy. Trump's going to undermine the Constitution. Well, how? Well, how's he going to end democracy? You keep saying that. How's he going to do it? It might be the last election we ever have. Well, how come? Why? I mean, he's never going to leave office, but he did last time. No one's going to be able to stop him. What are you talking about? Like, we have the House, the Senate, the courts. What are you talking about? So, it's all of that. I think it's demagoguing. Great word. All right. Anyways, that's what we talk about, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We had a great conversation about that this morning. We're expanding our vocabulary as we're trying. It's hard to understand these people because they're so demented, like George Conway and these other folks. And so we're trying to understand really what is it they're doing. I'm not even sure they know. So we're trying to help them out. Hopefully they're watching. All right. We've also got our website, robertgovea.com. If you want any of the PDFs that we're about to go through, any of the PDFs, we're going to go through several of them today, including Fani's. You can grab them, go to the website. You can see this is what it looks like. Click the reports tab, scroll on down, and you'll see all the documents are there, right? We got the whole series of reports here. We try to chronicle everything, all the stuff here. We love it if you'd share it. I mean, part of what we're doing here is trying to help wake people up to the truth of what's happening in this, like we want people to wake up and change their votes. to our side, obviously. So thanks for sharing it. Thanks for signing up to our newsletter. Click this button here, sign up. It'll give you access to the mind map, and you can get all this stuff delivered to your inbox every day after the show. Makes it nice and convenient. We also have our shop. If you want to grab a hat, grab a shirt. I'm seeing people ordering some shirts. I love that. We're going to come up with some new ideas and some other stuff. But check this out right now. Grab a hat. Love the hat. I wear mine every single day. And it's a great way to support the show and look great doing it. So robertgovea.com, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Links are down in the description below, wherever it is you're watching this. All right, well, let's get right to it. We've been waiting for this response for quite some time, and we're going to see what is inside. Fani Willis admits she's got a personal relationship with Nathan Wade. We've all known this, but she put it in writing now, and she says that's not a big deal at all. Who cares if we're in love? We didn't taint this case with any of our, indictments of each other on cruise ships. We used our personal money for this. We didn't have anything to do with taxpayer money. There's no improprieties here, and leave us alone, essentially. It's the true love defense. And we were kind of hinting at this a couple weeks ago when this all started to break. It's like, Fani's going to say, how dare you? I was lonely. I was under pressure. And I needed the comfort of a Nathan Wade hot dog, which we heard from a woman in Georgia that exists there. But Fani issued the response. We're going to hear Donald Trump's reaction as well and remind ourselves about a hearing that's coming up and then talk about this, because do we really want Fani going anywhere? I mean, she's kind of amazing for this whole charade. She's kind of like a lightning rod, a shiny object that we're all going to be able to pay a lot of attention to, that symbolizes and crystallizes how corrupt this whole thing is. So we kind of maybe want to keep her around. Well, let's see what she says. This is the response from Fani Willis into the court. You see, Fulton County, where Big Fani reigns. The case is the RICO case, 19 co-defendants. Several of these people have already taken diversion deals. They are not going to be convicted of anything. Sidney Powell is one of them. But here is what Fani wrote back to the court. She says, comes now Fani in my office in Fulton County, and we oppose the meritless motion to dismiss that was filed by Michael Roman, shout out to Ashley Merchant and that team there, and joined by Donald Trump and Robert Cheeley. Trump joined that motion and said, there's a lot of problems here, because after this allegation was even made, Michael Roman submitted his motion via Ashley Merchant, the attorney in Georgia. What happened is Fani came out and responded to that. She gave her a little talk at the church and said, this is racism. And we said, how is it racism? Because we're not talking about race, you are. We're talking about whether you slept with somebody or not. In this case, the allegation is you slept with Nathan Wade. If you would have slept with Nathan Wade and the white guy, who happens to be a RICO expert, which is pretty racist that you didn't sleep with him too, well, then we wouldn't have anything to argue about. We'd say, well, okay, well, I guess you slept with everybody. But she didn't. She only slept with one person as far as we know. So then she said it was all racism, and she's speaking and communicating to all of prospective jurors throughout Fulton County. So Trump said that is not appropriate. And let's just zoom out quickly. The standard here in our justice system is not actual improprieties. Like, you don't have to be caught with Nathan's hot dog in, your prosecutor's office or something. But even the appearance of impropriety is the problem. We want our justice system to be neutral. We want our prosecutors to be above reproach. So she's right in the middle of it. But here's what she says. Now, while the allegations raised in the various motions are salacious and they've garnered media attention that they were designed to obtain, none of those allegations provide this court with any basis upon which to order the relief they seek, which is either to disqualify Fani, there are two issues here, or to dismiss the case. And so let's pay special attention to both of those features, because a dismissal would resolve the whole thing, right? A dismissal means you don't have to disqualify anybody. The judge would say that the facts of this case are so tainted by this corruption that there is no way that this can be fair and impartial. All the evidence is bad. It's, whatever he comes up with a justification. Dismisses the case. Boom. That's the Super Bowl, case closed. Don't have to talk about disqualification anymore. The likelihood of that happening, I think, is quite low, because what they're going to say is that it's not material to the actual facts of the case. The evidence is separate and apart from their hot dog relationship where they're indicting each other on cruise ships and going to Napa Valley. But that is something that I think the judge will say, I can cordon that off. I can put a force field around that and protect the evidence. And then honestly, it's your job to cross-examine the evidence and impeach that evidence to say that the evidence is not sufficient in court. And if you want to bring in maybe some of this relationship stuff to show that, then we'll have to battle about that via motions in limine, admissions, relevance, objections on all the stuff. In other words, the judge will say, I'll deal with it at trial. But here's what Fani is saying. So now if the judge does keep the case, then the next step would be whether we disqualify her. Now here is what they say. Fani tells us, now unequivocally, the evidence and the facts demonstrate, and we're going to really have a issue with that unequivocal word, but here she says, DA Fani has no financial conflict of interest that constitutes a legal basis for disqualification. So two parts that, right? With a modifier. Does she have a financial conflict? Because on this channel, we've chronicled this clearly. Nathan Wade got about $700K and the others got a lot less than that. They got, I think, under $100K a piece. And they were actually more qualified, in my opinion, than he was. So we have a 7-to-1 ratio there. Why is that? Now, that's a conflict because she, according to billing records from Nathan Wade's divorce proceedings, some of that money, presumably, I don't know if he was working or getting funds elsewhere, but some of that money, presumably, was going back to the enjoyment of Fani on cruises. We've got plane tickets that were being bought, Napa Valley, all the things. So there is a conflict, but maybe she says it's outside of the scope. It's too far removed. Who cares about this? So it's not a basis for disqualification of her office. And she might be right about this. We'll see. Now, DA Attorney Willis has no personal conflict of interest that justifies her disqualification personally or that of Fulton County in the district attorney's office. Now, obviously, if there's a financial conflict, you can say, well, if you're sleeping with the dude who you're paying and you're going on cruises, maybe that is a personal conflict. But again, these are just issues, remember, between, Nathan and maybe the taxpayers of Georgia. Maybe the voters can take a look at this and maybe he can come up with some legal justifications for why this doesn't matter. I'm talking he, the judge, why this doesn't matter to the case. But think about this also related to Trump, because now this leads to the prosecution of Trump and Mike Rome and any of the other co-defendants in order to rack up the bill, right? It's prosecution for pay. So she wouldn't be able to go on cruises and go to Napa Valley and sip on wine with Nathan if he wasn't getting paid all this extra money. Now, the attacks on Special Prosecutor Wade's qualifications, we have the we're truly in love defense, the true love defense. And then we also have Nathan Wade is highly qualified defense. These are malicious attacks on him. And so even if he's not qualified, he still is. This is no basis to dismiss the indictment or to disqualify the special prosecutor. I think that's a good point, which is honestly kind of why it's like we might want to keep Nathan Wade around. We might want to keep Fani Willis around because they're incompetent. Why would we want them going anywhere? Yeah, he doesn't even take notes as far as we know. And so far, their track record on this case has been terrible. They've got 4 diversion agreements, which means 0 conviction. And I know a lot of lefties really hate that, but it's true. Go read the documents. Don't take my word for it. It's there in black and white. It's still posted on my X account if you want to go take a look at it. 0 convictions they've gotten from this. No Sidney Powell, no Jenna Ellis. Weird. How come? They were supposed to be some of the masterminds behind this whole operation, weren't they? You got nothing on them. And then we saw actually Fani Willis in action. I almost forgot. She came out and she argued at that Harrison Floyd proceeding and she did terribly. She lost that. And we were sitting here going, is she nuts? What is she going through all this motion for that, Harrison Floyd she wanted him back in custody, and Jenna Ellis supported that, by the way. And what ended up happening is the judge said he didn't have any notice that he was not allowed to do this. Obviously, that was going to be the outcome. And she was like, hi, Your Honor, lost everything because she is not good at it. Neither is Nathan Wade. And when you zoom out on this even further, think about this. Look, if you have a group project, rewind yourself back to high school or college or something, okay? If you're going to go over to your love affairs, dorm room or whatever, to do your homework together, how does that ever work out for you? Okay, it doesn't, right? We're all aware of this. Yeah. We'll come over. I'm gonna come over there and we're just gonna study together, right? We'll study for finals together. Yeah, you and your love interest. Does that ever work? No, it doesn't. Okay, or maybe it does, but it's like, what's your output capacity? What's your production? Are you at 100% production there? Are you really focused on that 100%? No. Maybe you get like 60% productivity versus, let's say, two prosecutors who are dedicated to not indicting each other on cruise ships. If they're actually focused on the case, right, the two top dogs here, Fani and Nathan Wade, if they're actually like grinding because they're not jousting each other, whatever they do in their bedrooms, their prerogative, but that would be, you'd actually turn out some work product, I guess is what I'm saying. And they weren't doing that. So the point is, we kind of, they're kind of, it's showing up in court. So District Attorney Willis she's made no public statements that warrant disqualification or other judicial inquiry. Doesn't even want to talk about it. And the public statements she did talk about it. She actually did make public statements about it. We listened to her in church. She made 30 minutes of public statements to her constituents, complaining that she's lonely and she's under attack by racists for sleeping with somebody and then paying him almost $1 million. So she also says, now criticism of this process that we utilized to appoint and compensate demonstrates a basic misunderstanding of the law. We're all just idiots, but it provides no basis for dismissing the indictment. So she's going to try to cordon herself off, and I think she's probably going to be successful. I think the judge is maybe likely to keep her. Let's see. Let's finish. Says, now the motions have no merit. And after consideration of the attached exhibits, including the sworn affidavit of Nathan Wade that we're going to read, this should be summarily denied without an evidentiary hearing. And that's what they really want to avoid. They've done a very good job of putting the lid on the divorce. Remember, Nathan Wade was going to have a hearing this week to talk about the divorce. Fani had a subpoena and all that got quashed. They don't want to talk about this. They're in cover-up mode. So here, the motions identify no conflict of interests. She says, Georgia courts have long recognized there are two accepted grounds for disqualifying a prosecuting attorney. So Georgia standards, like forensic misconduct, there's no forensic misconduct here. They say defendants do not point to any action that has been outside the character of an officer of the law, that's specifically charged to oversee either the special grand jury's purpose or the prosecution of these defendants. So think of it, it's like if forensic misconduct or something, if a crime lab technician swapped labels on DUI vials and the district attorney covered that up or something, okay, that's like an egregious, thing of misconduct. But jousting your, or hanging out with your special prosecutor or being jousted by him is not something that rises to that level. So she's reading this very narrowly. A forensic misconduct is only one of the things, and I didn't do that. Now, the motions attempt to cobble together entirely unremarkable circumstances of Nathan Wade's, his appointment with completely irrelevant allegations about his family life. Now, this effort must fail. Say, for a prosecutor to be disqualified, it requires, quote, a personal interest, and a district attorney is not disqualified by personal interest in a case where he was not acting in his personal or individual character, but in his character as an officer of the law. Now, a conflict arises when the prosecutor has a personal interest or a stake in the defendant's conviction. Now, see, that's where I would say she does, absolutely. The more hours that Nathan Wade bills, the more money he has to spend on her to go into cruise ships and other things. Now, a charge that no defendant offers any support of beyond their fantastical theories, which I just came up with one, and rank speculation. So they say you need more than that. Well, we have actual travel logs, Fani. Let's see. A conflict of interest requires more than a theoretical or speculative conflict, and an actual conflict of interest must be involved. He got paid $700 grand. You guys went to Napa Valley. Now, under the clear definition supplied by the law, they say we don't meet the standards. We don't have a personal or financial interest in the conviction. conflicts that fall into these categories, we got a lot of case law here, so we're fast forwarding through a lot of this. But here they say all of these circumstances can create a personal interest, but none of those apply here. So they give us a couple narrow examples here. Like here's a conflict where a DA represented a husband in a divorce proceeding at the same time that he was participating in the prosecution of the wife for shooting the husband. Like that's a pretty serious conflict. He's representing the husband and he's also prosecuting the wife. I'm going to put her in jail. You're going to get a smoking deal because I'm going to put her in jail. Like you're going to get the house and everything. Why? She's going to jail because I'm prosecuting her. Like that's a conflict clearly. So she's saying it has to be like monstrous. Not the fact that they're just indicting each other. Now here, similarly, like if a prosecutor is a fact witness that provides incriminating evidence about the defendant, but none of that applies here. So all these examples are outside the scope, she says. Now, finding of a financial conflict on the prosecutor's part is exceedingly rare, and that's to her benefit, but has been found to arise when a special prosecutor is compensated by a contingency fee. Well, we know contingency fees for convictions are those are hard no's. A contingency fee is something like in a personal injury case, right? Like you don't pay unless we win. So, your personal injury attorney, you get in an accident, you lose your leg, you get $1 million. The attorney says, we're going to take a contingent fee. We're going to take a third of the settlement. They get 300 grand. You take the rest. You can't do that in criminal law. Like we'll only pay you if you convict this dude because that causes some pretty perverse incentives. We're not paying per convictions. We're paying for justice. This is why prosecutors are not supposed to be like overly partisan prosecutorial hacks. They're supposed to be people who just do justice under the law, right? We don't want them to be weaponized and incentivized financially to go after people. So this is obvious. Like the fact that she's like bringing this up is like, first year criminal law. Courts have held that incentivizing a prosecutor to secure a criminal conviction creates a conflict. Like, okay, duh, like we've got that. But again, none of the circumstances that could support this here exist. So it's not a contingency fee, right? She's just paying him hourly for the work. Now he happens to be billing the hours like up massively. And just for not like those numbers were accurate, reported by the Atlanta Journal. They said that Nathan had billed 700 grand, the other two less than 100 grand. And guess who's approving those billing reports and approving those contracts? Fani is, like by her signatures. But again, none of those support this here. Now, they say that Fani, her state and county compensation is set by law and is not in the least bit reliant or dependent on the outcome. So Fani, right, she says, my pay doesn't change. Whether Trump gets convicted or not, I get a salary. I'm just a government employee. Now, defendants attempt, the argument, of course, is that, okay, we know that. Like, your money's not going up. That's the problem for you guys. So that's why you're funneling your money over to Nathan Wade. So that you can funnel the taxpayer funds to him, and then he can take you on the cruises. Now, she says that the defendant's attempt to conflate media attention with personal financial gain is complete conjecture. One could speculate with the same confidence that a decision not to seek charges or to seek different charges arising from the same set would result in comparable media attention. Yeah, but that if you did not seek charges, then Nathan Wade wouldn't be able to bill. He's billing hourly, Fani. So the personal financial gain is connected. Like, this motion is so dumb. The personal financial gain is connected specifically to the fact that you continue on with this. He gets to bill every day he shows up in court, and ignores that DA Willis has attracted both positive and negative publicity to this case, which includes ongoing security threats. Yes, we know. Racial slurs. Yes, we know. Sexual invective. Like what, Fani? And attacks. She's a prosecutor, for crying out loud. Give me a break. The biggest one in Fulton County. I get so tired of this stuff. Like, how are you going to incarcerate gang members and cartel, leaders if you get shook when someone calls you Big Fani? Relax. And most importantly, this fuzzy concept of personal or financial interest via media attention is simply not a definition that's ever been recognized by Georgia law, right? Of course, because it's probably never happened before. That the special counsel was indicting the DA herself. Incredible. Now, fair consideration of any benefit to the prosecutor. If Fani got any money, like if we're going to disqualify her, it's about her. To the prosecutor, it must include these obvious and undeniable costs and any spurious allegations of publicity seeking aside, which I think I think they're saying it's because she saw. I think this is in response to Trump saying you sought publicity to expound on this issue, basically to defend yourself in the court of public opinion, and that was jeopardizing the jury pool, and you're not supposed to do that. You are already a prosecutor. You already have throngs of power. You don't also get the power to go out and use your office to castigate the opponents. They're already the defendant. So it must be made clear that DA Willis did not go looking for this case, which is a weird thing to even put in this. Hey, don't look at me. I didn't want this crap. These defendants centered their racketeering conspiracy in Georgia. So it's their problem, right? Their crimes gave it to her. It's in her jurisdiction. And so the motions are based on guesswork and public relations strategy and not legal argument. This is not even... Okay. A conflicted prosecutor presents a risk that he or she will disregard public interest for personal benefit, which is exactly what we're talking about here. Yeah. Racking up the bill, pay for prosecution. No circumstances alleged by any of these defendants even approach that threshold, let alone cross it. And the accusations brought to this court by these defendants on the flimsiest of factual support may cause a reasonable person to wonder the defendant's motivation is more tactical than legal. I think we're missing a word there, no? May cause a reasonable person to wonder the defendant's motivation is more tactical. I think we're missing whether, no? To wonder whether the defendant's motivation is more tactical than legal. Now, one may question whether, there that word is, the intent is to disqualify the prosecutor who has taken on all of the abuse to pursue justice in this case at great personal cost, only to be substituted with someone less committed to do so. This is horrible. I can't even take it. Wow. Okay. So who has taken on all the abuse to pursue justice in this case at a great personal cost? So she's the victim now. And that's why this case shouldn't be dismissed and pursued justice? Our tenses are wrong. Who wrote this? Did Nathan Wade write this? So anyways, like the grammar's off. Now, any personal relationship among members does not amount to a disqualifying conflict of interest. Now, much of Roman's motions relies on supposition and innuendo. It actually doesn't. Like they have billing records regarding the private relationship between Fani and Wade. It is distasteful that such allegations require a response. I'm sure you don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but it's true. It exists. But for candor's sake, and to provide the court with sufficient facts to resolve this matter efficiently and consistently with the manner in which other potential conflicts of interest have been handled, the attached affidavit of Nathan Wade makes clear that Roman's insinuation that his counsel was aware of material in the sealed divorce filings, his counsel was aware in the sealed filings that would in any way support disqualification or dismissal in this matter was a blatant misrepresentation designed to seek publicity instead of a meritorious legal remedy. Now, the affidavit, they say, also clarifies that Fani and Wade have been professional associates and friends since 2019, and there was no personal relationship between them in November 2021 at the time that Wade got appointed. But I don't know about that, because as soon as he executed the contract, the next day, he filed for divorce. Why is that? That's a pretty big coincidence. My goodness. And defendants offer no support for their insistence that the exercise of any prosecutorial discretion, this is the point, right? They're going to say relationships in this hula hoop, in this bucket, and all the prosecutions in this bucket. And the judge is probably going to find a way to keep it this way, which I think is actually a good thing. We'll talk about it. Now, in this case, nothing was impacted by any personal relationship. So without those additional factors, the existence of a relationship between members of a prosecution team in and of itself is simply not a status that entitles a criminal defendant to any remedy. Well, but that's the point, is we're not saying it's in and of itself. Like, there's a lot more to this, including $1 million. So Georgia courts have held as much for decades, both in civil and criminal context. So now they're, goalposts just moved. So now they're going to argue all about, prosecutors are allowed to have relationships. And we say, yeah, that's not exactly, sure, I'm sure that's true. But that's not what we're talking about here. So now they're going to give us this whole paragraph about, prosecutor married an attorney who represented a criminal defendant in an unrelated case and all this crap. It's like, okay, no one cares. It does not follow that professional people will allow intimacy to interfere with their professional obligations, right? And we have found no authority that married lawyers who are involved in active litigation on opposing sides must be disqualified, right? Like, it's lawyers are people too. We are, believe it or not. Some of us. Not a lot of prosecutors, though. Defendants' motions do not cite to any of this controlling case law or any other authority. And they say, it's worth noting that there are at least 2 personal relationships among the collection of defense attorneys. Okay. Are they also using taxpayer money to fly around and go to cruises? And they're also getting paid by the hour from the coffers of Georgia? This is so bad. Well, they're doing it too. It's worth noting that there are at least 2 relationships among the collection of attorneys that are representing the defendants. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. They're throwing this is like high school. Now, under the standard urged by Roman's motion, would almost certainly require disqualification. Amanda Clark, who's representing Smith, and Scott Grubman, representing Chesebro, they're having a personal relationship too. Okay, well, that's great. They're allowed to do that. Are they in the same office, first of all? And does their HR, company, they have a position on that? And is there a hierarchy of positions there, right? So is there a power dynamic there between the two? Probably not. And is there $1 million of Georgia taxpayer monies that are being funded to them to defend their clients? Answer, no. But they did it too. And so we did it too. So again, she's going back. She's forgetting everything else. She's like, forget everything else. Forget all of the evidence. We're allowed, prosecutors are allowed to be in a relationship. And we say, yeah, that's absolutely true. Of course that is. Lawyers can be in relationships too. It's the cases that you're on and how you're prosecuting those cases and whether you're laundering $1 million. So since Chesebro has already pled guilty and agreed to testify for the state about nothing in the upcoming trial against Smith and other remaining defendants, one who is ill-informed about this, one might argue that their relationship could also rise to a conflict of interest there. That's inculpating Clark Palmer's clients. Okay, that's a stretch. Now that, of course, would be an incorrect conclusion to draw, obviously. So similarly, counsel for Jana, okay, they didn't even get her name right. I got to tell you, whoever wrote this motion is a moron. And that's not just the typos. It sounds like a whiny letter. Jana Ellis, doesn't even know. These people are idiots here. I'm not joking. We've seen it from day one. Our defendant Jana Ellis are married law partners working together and representing Ellis through these proceedings. Right? It's Jenna, isn't it? It's J-E. I'm not wrong on that. The state has not brought these. Okay, so husband and wife law team, there's no conflict there. They're working together to represent the same person. There is no conflict. The state has not brought these relationships to the court's attention as potential conflicts because they're not conflicts. This is weird. And now Roman's motion was filed saying the private lives of attorneys in this trial was not a topic of discussion. My goodness. So this is missing the whole point of this allegation, and it's by design, or maybe this person doesn't know any better. They say attacks on the qualification of Special Counsel Wade are also unfounded. And I would agree, if Wade is totally unqualified, that's okay. You can have an idiot prosecutor. You can have totally unqualified prosecutors. In fact, this is great. It's great for the Trump case. We're watching the outcome of an incompetent team. They can't get even convictions for Jenna Ellis or Sidney Powell. or even Harrison Floyd, returned back to custody. And that's even after copying Liz Cheney's homework. So this could be right. Like, I actually don't disagree with this. Now, that the thoughts and views of the defense counsel on the disqualification of him because he's incompetent is, in a word, absurd. But that's not what we're talking about. Okay, we're not saying that Nathan Wade and the office should be disqualified because he's not competent. That's not what we're saying. We're saying the fact that he was appointed and paid $250 an hour when the RICO guy, the white guy who she didn't sleep with, he was paid $150 an hour, and he wrote the book on RICO for Georgia. That's the point. We talk about Wade's qualifications to determine fair market value, okay? Not whether it's your discretion to hire someone or not. Now, you can hire the dumbest prosecutors in the world. It seems like you have, actually. Thanks for that. But that's your prerogative. The reason we talk about his qualifications is about compensation, which goes back to your conflict. So again, they're missing the whole mark. And the judge is going to see this. He's going to be reading this and go, what the hell are they talking about? As a preliminary matter, no criminal defendant has a right to select a prosecutor of his or her choosing. And they cite a case for that. I swear an intern wrote this. I swear. It's his Criminal Law 101. Same point earlier. Now, neither Georgia nor any other jurisdiction permits a criminal defendant to choose his or her prosecutor. Like, I'm not joking you. This is hysterical. Thanks for that. They cited that. They looked this up. Thanks. And the court is aware of no Supreme Court precedent establishing a defendant's right to choose his prosecutor. Nobody alleged that at all. Like, what are they even talking about? Now, criminal defendants are entitled to be prosecuted free of legal conflicts of interest, of which none are found here, and so we get to pick our own prosecutors. So one need not look further than Roman's baseless efforts to undermine Wade's qualification. There's bad faith that runs through this motion. Now, while the motion makes dismissive accusations about the adequacy of his successful, decades-long legal career to lead the prosecution of defendant Roman and his co-defendants, a decidedly strange position for the criminal defendant to take. What? The truth is, Wade has long distinguished himself as an exceptionally talented litigator with significant trial experience. We're going to read through his filing. Now, he's a diligent and relentless advocate, known for his candor with the court, which, okay, great. He just talks openly with them. He's a leader more than capable of managing the complexity of this case. Citation needed. In addition to having been appointed as a municipal court judge, which handles misdemeanors and civil traffic offenses, not felonies or RICO felonies, in 3 jurisdictions, and having been asked to present topics of training on new judges for municipal courts, again, not felonies, Special Prosecutor Wade has received accolades and recognition for his skill. Now, counsel for Roman knows all of this. During a judicial campaign, defendant Roman's counsel, man, they're going to smear Ashley Merchant here, says that Ashley, the lawyer who actually wrote this, was an enthusiastic supporter of Wade's candidacy. They went and trolled her Facebook. Shout out to Ashley Merchant. We love Ashley here. She supported Nathan Wade some time ago in 2016. She said he's ethical, that he's got experience. She said he was a prosecutor, a private attorney, and a judge. And that was her post. Here's what her post looked like, right? She even wore a shirt out there. On May 24th, enjoying some Greek music, vote for Nathan Wade. Said, hey, he's practiced in every area. He's a recipient of all this stuff. And she was a vocal and even had a visual presence of him, supporting him. That's great. She supported him for whatever this position was. During a judicial campaign for a judge. Okay, so she supported him, just to be clear, to be a municipal judge, is what it sounds like. To be a municipal judge, not, which is a whole different category. Like, he's probably competent for that, according to her. Doesn't make him competent to prosecute felonies. But again, that's the question we're asking. It's not about whether the defense has a right to disqualify him. I don't think that based on his competency, they can hire an idiot prosecutor if they want to. It's about and so this is a red herring, right? This is a distraction. It's about showing the compensation that he got for his credentials relevant to the other on the team. Saying, Fani continues, neither Fani nor Wade have any financial interest in any of these convictions. But they do, because the longer they prosecute these, the more money they can bill. They say as long as the arrangement does not run afoul of contingency fees, then it's perfectly appropriate and even routine. We do this all the time. We're allowed to bill. And we can do that here. They say Prosecutor Wade has been compensated for his time that he spent working on this case, just like all other special prosecutors have. And they make no effort to factually demonstrate otherwise. Now, references to aggregate invoices paid over a period of years may garner headlines, but they ignore the context of Wade's role. He was digging into the complex criminal racketeering scheme designed for 2020. And so comparison for his work to other prosecutors, they did less time-consuming work. Okay, he billed 700 grand, allegations are $1 million now. They billed less than 100 grand because he did the hard work. So they had more circumscribed roles. That's why he made much more money than the others, only because Wade did much more work. Footnote here saying, like other special prosecutors, Wade actually took a reduced rate. His contract's identical to everybody else and is substantially similar to the white guy, Floyd, who Fani didn't sleep with. Now, the difference is attributable to the willingness of Floyd's firm. So Floyd, he took a lower rate because he's a nice guy based on its long-standing commitment to public service, okay? So the white guy who she didn't sleep with, as far as we know, he got paid less because they're nice guys. Now, regardless, we're allowed to appoint these and we're allowed to set pay at our own compensation. If we want to pay him a lot more, we can. And we have. Some special counsels have charged $1,000 an hour. And so I can bill him whatever I want. And I think the judge might agree. So good. This is between you and your voters and your office. If you want to bang your special counsel and bill Georgia for that, it's between you guys. But if I can separate that out from the rest of the case, I think the judge is probably going to do that. Now, since Wade's appointment, he has managed a lot of people, like a whole team of lawyers. And shortly after his appointment, DA Willis petitioned the chief judge to convene the Superior Court judges to conduct a criminal investigation. And once they issued the order, then Wade jumped into work. And he worked very hard. And he got a lot of evidence from the special grand jury and all the things. Now, he was there for a lot, right? Hours and hours and hours. Now, unsurprisingly, not every witness was a willing witness. And so he had to procure their testimony. He had to get subpoenas and he had to force compliance with compulsory process and blah, blah, blah. He had to do this with out-of-state witnesses, 16 witnesses, right? So they're giving you like a laundry list of all the things that he actually did. Maybe he took notes for those. We don't know. So he did a bunch of work. That's why he got paid all this money. Now, our investigation led to, so this is just called kind of papering the file, right? So they just went through their file. Hey, man, what did you do? Did you do any work here? What can we add to our log? It's like when you get a client complains, hey, you got a flat fee or something. Hey, I want to know what you did in my case. You got to write an accounting for them, right? This is what I did on this date, filed this motion, did this, blah, blah. Kind of a pain in the butt. But that's what they're doing here. They're just saying, this is all the things that he did. This is why he's billing what he billed. Given the breadth and the complexity of this case, which is wild because they've got 0 convictions. They've got 4 defendants that have pled out, but no convictions. They're all diversion deals. And the unprecedented public attention focused on this and the highly charged political environment, the hours invoiced by Wade are wholly predictable. He deserves all that money. Now, Wade, in order to take this position, he resigned from 3 judicial appointments. Okay, so he was a judge at 3 different locations, just kept being a judge. And it's like, oh my gosh. And largely stepped away from his private practice for long stretches, which is very interesting admissions here. Isn't that interesting? So it sounds like Wade really didn't have any other sources of income, did he? So he resigned from 3 appointments and largely stepped away from his private practice. So he might have a little bit of that private practice money coming in. Did he use that private practice money to go on his Napa Valley trip, to go on his cruise ships? Or was that Fulton County money that Fani got paid him? So there's simply no honest argument that Wade unduly benefited financially from his appointments. Okay, He got $1 million billing 24 hours in a day on one day. Not even a single pee break. No financial benefit while he's going on cruises with his DA. So they say Roman's motion also wildly speculates that Fani got some benefits, that somehow she benefited from the prosecution. But they provide no support to justify that other than this little fact here. Okay, in other words, Wade had no other income. You paid him, your lover, a lot of money, and then you enjoyed the fruits of that appointment. That's the conflict. Now she says, and you always know this, now to be absolutely clear, the personal relationship between DA Fani and Nathan Wade has never involved direct or indirect financial benefit to Fani Willis. See that? Never involved any, even indirect financial benefit to Fani. Give me a break, man. You guys were flying all over the place, going on these little vacays. Who's paying for that? We saw Nathan Wade was, but apparently he was using his what money? His little law firm money that he wasn't working in? Huh. So defendants have produced no evidence to suggest that there was any circumstance that would constitute a financial incentive from Fani to pursue a conviction through Wade. Yeah, yes, there is. I mean, it's wild they even say this, because if Nathan Wade dismisses the case against Trump, he has nothing to bill, does he? He has no more income coming in, right? He gave up his judgeship. He can't be a judge. He resigned. He's not even working in private practice anymore. He has to spin that all back up. So he took this appointment, wrapped up all of his other stuff, pocketed $1 million, and then used that money to take Fani on cruises. If that stops, if there is a dismissal of the case, all that spigot of money goes away. Now, there are no joint and shared finances or financial accounts. Who cares? No one cares. There is not now or has never been any shared household. Okay, we still see the conflict as following through his account back as a benefit to Fani. There is no financial dependency or merging of daily expenses. Well, you're not married. Okay, thanks. Financial responsibility for personal travel taken, here we go, is divided roughly evenly between the two, with neither being primarily responsible for expenses of the other, and all expenses paid for with individual personal funds. What funds? What personal funds? He resigned all of his judgeships. That's his money, and he's getting a lot of it. That's why he divorced his wife immediately after getting the contract. So both are professionals. They both have substantial income. Neither is financially reliant on the other. No, you're not. Well, he is reliant on Fani. I got to tell you that. That's not accurate. That's not accurate at all, right? And that's like dishonest. So he is absolutely reliant on her. If she does not renew his contract, what's he going to do? He's got to go back, run for office again, get reappointed to those judgeships that he resigned from. He's got to spin up private practice. You know, it's a lot of work to build a private practice. I did that. And you don't just get to take a couple of years off and then come on back in. You know, he's been taking years off prosecuting Trump. So he's just going to go back. He's like literally reliant on her, and they're lovers. So that's not accurate. That's dishonest, like by the records. So the facts here, she says, are readily distinguishable from contingency arrangements or other scenarios where a true financial conflict may play a role. Yeah, I agree. It is distinguishable from that, but that's not the only standard. All right. So given this total absence of financial conflicts, they say defendant Chile's, are they saying Romans or the Chile? It's from the Chile motion. They say multiple ongoing conflicts is not persuasive. Looking to an order disqualifying the DA cannot support his motion. We need more than a theoretical or speculative conflict, like an actual conflict, as we just articulated. Persuasively, the prosecuting attorney's counsel that's tasked with assessing potential conflicts and providing governance on this found no conflict of interest in the political activity that they cited for that disqualification. All right. Now, continuing, they also talk about Fani and her church conversation. They say her public comments are all within legal and ethical rules and guidelines. They say Trump's motion that raises concerns about the public comments made by Fani that neither reference this case nor the defendants is totally meritless. So she wasn't, she was talking about something else, not this case. She didn't use Trump's name or anyone else's name. So they say the motion makes no serious legal argument. It establishes no violation of any ethical rules. It makes no real effort to link the public statements to any legal standards, and instead raises vague and plaintive cries of due process. Hopefully they explain all that, because that was a big mouthful. Now here, Trump has presented no direct evidence that the attorney was motivated to treat him differently because of his race, gender, or any other improper ground. Again, that's not what anybody's claiming. Like, nobody's saying that she was attacking Trump and being racist towards Trump. What is this person even talking about? Motivated to treat Trump differently because of race. Like, this is not an equal employment discrimination conversation. It's that she was talking to the jurors in Fulton County and calling the defendants racist. Okay, voir dire, not motions for disqualification, is how you should deal with this. So the fact that I went out and ran my mouth at my church and everyone just sat there and was like, yeah, go girl, for whatever reason, was here saying the impact of public statements on a prospective juror is evaluated. Should we just deal with it during jury selection? Just ask, did you hear what she said? Oh, you did? Did that make you unfair? Can you be fair and impartial? Yeah, I can. Okay, great, you're on. Trump's motion fails to establish an adequate basis in law, and he can't even articulate any standards. And so our appointment of Nathan Wade complies with the law, saying there's no structural error. We've already explained this. They are misstating the requirements for special prosecutors. Remember, there were some procedural problems, they said? That he should have signed an oath and they should have submitted some paperwork. But they say that requirement does not apply to Special Prosecutor Wade, because it shall not apply to any deputy who may be employed in particular cases only. So given that, this case was Wade's primary focus. Again, right, the guy has no other work, so he's literally beholden to Fani Willis. She doesn't renew it, he's done. Fires him, you're done. Get out of here. Clearly relying on him. And maybe he's got, you know, gosh, it's really complex. But now, as this court has noted, regardless of any of the particularities, he had, regardless of his omission to take and file the oath, there is a de facto officer theory. Okay, so it's a de facto theory. The fact that he's kind of acting in it, a lot of case law, just saying, we don't need to even go through all those mechanisms. It's just, we just did it. Despite the lack of filing, they say, okay, even though he didn't file it, all Special Prosecutors Acts while in office would even be valid even as a de facto officer. So even though he didn't like go through the mechanics, it was still valid under the color of law. And most critically, they say the defense has failed to establish how any of his actions would result in harm or prejudice to them, how any of this would have changed the course of the prosecution. They haven't established any constitutional violations either, and they have to show harm before you can take action on this, Your Honor. And they also misunderstand the contracting procedures. Contracting with professionals is a well-established practice afforded to many prosecutors. A DA can use the funds however she wants by the county and commissioners, literally however she wants. A DA can use the funds allocated to the office by the county commissioners as he or she sees fit. That's the rule in Georgia. She said here, she's citing this law. Wait a minute. She cited the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Someone else is saying they can do whatever they want. So the appointment of Special Wade, a former prosecutor, judge, defense counsel, and managing law partner, is wholly appropriate. It's my money. I can do whatever I want with it. And no one articulates how the appointment of Wade, or the appointment, or using that money essentially, is a problem. They say Willis is a state officer. She's elected. The people put her in there. So she is simply not obligated to conform with the requirements that are applicable to other county officers. See that? So it looks like Fani has a little bit of immunity going on here or something. Now, claims for disqualification are completely without merit, they say. Saying none of those provisions apply. And a lot of this stuff is more technical stuff. Any allegation that ORCA or other earmarked funds were misappropriated are false. As a general matter, the DA has the authority to execute contracts. Payments pursuant to a contract can be paid in different ways. There's a payment voucher. They give us the explanation here. Paying a contract via a PO requires two things. Now, a memo is created. They walk us through all this procedural stuff that, again, the judge is going to be like, what are you talking about? While it would have been entirely permissible for all payments to Wade's office to have been paid via purchase order, we followed the rules and we went through a more robust process. And we sought our CFO's approval on all payments to Nathan Wade. And so each invoice was independently reviewed for compliance with Wade's contract, and a budget line was utilized appropriately. So we could see if anybody, so in other words, wild. Nobody caught the fact that he billed 24 hours in a day. They just paid him out for it, it sounds like. So what they say, we went through a rigorous process before we paid him, so therefore it is not an illegal scheme. We're not trying to hide anything. And again, nobody's saying that you were trying to hide anything. Well, we think that you were trying to hide something, but not that he was reporting his money laundering in invoices. Like, nobody's saying that. So in conclusion, they say, we know that we're scheduled for a hearing on this. And they say that this defense team, Trump and Mike Roman and others, and lawyers for them, they've provided a notice of subpoenas. They're trying to subpoena a bunch of people from Fani's office. Yes, we love to hear that. 8 of them at last count, including Fani Willis herself. They're also subpoenaing Wade, Wade's current and former law partners, and many others have been subpoenaed as well. Now, Roman's lawyer has also attempted to subpoena Wade's personal bank records because we want to see. Yeah, we want to see if he's got other sources of income, right? Wouldn't that be interesting? Because he says that he used his cruise money and his flight money from his personal record, his personal funds. Okay, well, where did those funds come from? From Fani, right? Thanks. Records, and has gone so far as to subpoena an attorney who at one time represented him in his divorce proceedings. The hunters become the hunted. This is when defense attorneys just go like rabid, and I absolutely love it. Doesn't happen too often. Like piranhas, man, just subpoenaing everybody. Let's go. Both are incredibly inappropriate efforts to intrude into our personal life with little to no evidentiary value. That's not true at all. You guys have a conflict, not them. The state, in an effort to be as candid, as transparent with the court as possible, has given our affidavit of Prosecutor Wade, and we've included other exhibits directly establishing facts that counter the wild and reckless speculation that the motions have advanced. That effort should not be viewed as an acquiescence that this extraordinary level of invasion of privacy, well, that's what you get in the public eye, is in any way justified or that it will be repeated. The legal basis for each of these motions to disqualify falls woefully short of what would meet the standards, and they say no further factual development is necessary to deny these motions now. In other words, we do not want a hearing, Judge. By issuing these subpoenas to these individuals with little or no knowledge of this fact, they are seemingly anticipating a hearing that's going to last for days. Let's go. Perfect, man. I'll clear the calendar. We'll clear the calendar. We'll be here. Garner more breathless media coverage and intrude even further into the personal lives of the prosecution team in an effort to embarrass them and harass them personally. Or you guys could just recuse. Like, just pull yourself off the case and just turn it over to someone else. Now, this is not an example of zealous advocacy, nor is it a good faith effort to develop a record on a disputed legal issue. It's a ticket to the circus. No, there is a conflict. You have a direct motive to continue your prosecution even when there is not a valid basis for it, which in my opinion is the whole case, the whole RICO case. All that $1 million that Nathan Wade got, he should have gotten 0. This whole thing is a charade. It never should have been brought in the first place. Defendants have done nothing to establish an actual conflict of interest, nor have they shown that in handling the case. They've acted out of any personal or financial motivation other than getting $1 million and, like 2 years of free vacations. The record before the court falls short of requiring disqualification, but alone because there is no evidence of acting out of personal interest and without any basis for the extraordinary relief of disqualifying the DA or Wade, the motion should be denied, saying that their failure to support their demands for extreme relief with evidence, the state respectfully asks, consider the Wade affidavit and then deny this without further spectacle. Terrible motion written by Anna Green Cross. So she submitted that, probably written by, some other people on her team. She's just signing off on that thing. And they got to just be, like, talk about being deflated and defeated. Like, if you're Anna Green Cross, if you're John Floyd, if you're these guys, and you're going, this is what our history is going to be. You're excited when this case starts. You're like, we're going to prosecute Trump. Yeah, this is going to be a historic case. We're all going to get book deals and everything. And now they're defending Wade's hot dog. It's wild. They must feel just like total losers because their involvement in this thing. So here's Exhibit A. This is Nathan Wade's affidavit. He says, my name is Nathan Wade. I'm over 18 years of age, no legal disabilities. I live in Georgia. I made this affidavit with sound mind. I am a member in good standing of Georgia. Got a lot of experience, all these other things. Northern District of Georgia, Middle District of Georgia. Great. He's admitted to all those things. Basically filled the paperwork, get admitted, boom. I've served as prosecutor several times during my career. First as the assistant solicitor in Cobb County, then as special assistant attorney general for the state of Georgia, and then as special prosecutor for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. So don't know what he did there. I opened my law practice in 2000. My law firm has employed between 4 and 9 employees. I have served as a civil attorney in private practice representing individuals, businesses, and corporations. I have served as a criminal defense attorney. Hundreds of individuals charged with felony and misdemeanor offenses. I've tried many felony cases, including clients in serious matters, but not limited to capital offense murder, rape, armed robbery, as well as aggravated assault. Those are big cases. Capital, that's a big case. Now, some of these cases did garner national media attention, so that's great as a defense attorney. Now, I was retained as outside counsel to represent the sheriff of Cobb County. I was contracted to conduct an external independent an accountability assessment. Right, and I think that's where he concluded that he had no notes, right? $5.50 an hour, he had no notes. They brought him in because Fani's DAs, people are dropping dead in the jails all over the place. And of course, he went to go investigate it. They said, what kind of work did you do? He said, I didn't take any notes. It's all in here. I began serving as a municipal judge all over the place. I was proud to be the first African-American municipal court judge in Marietta and served on other state courts. I've also presided over criminal trials. I received the President's Award from municipal court, and over the course of my career, dozens of accolades. And again, it's about the compensation relative to the others. Now, I'm 25 years as an attorney, high-profile athletes, complex things. I am not now, nor have ever been an employee of Fulton County. On February 15th, I completed training that allowed me to be a municipal judge. It's a whole resume booster here. All that's irrelevant. We're now at 17. Now, while presenting at a training course, I met Fani Willis back in 2019. Then the newly appointed chief judge of the city of South Fulton. Met Fani in court at a training. Now, after being elected as the first female DA in Fulton, Willis asked me to serve on her transition team. In the spring of 2021, Willis asked me and 2 other attorneys to assist her in looking for a competent, trustworthy attorney to manage and lead the investigation. DA Willis was able to offer no more than $250 per hour, capped at a monthly rate. That hourly rate was significantly less than the market rate in the area, but my previous rate when working for the government was $550. But the DA was offering less than half of that. Lawyers we spoke with about taking on the work were hesitant because of their safety issues for their families, and the DA and other lawyers approached me. Understanding the demands, I told them I was not interested in giving up my 3 judicial appointments or taking time away from my role as the managing partner and the primary business generator for my firm, which further confirms that he got his money. He's getting all of his money from Fani, or a huge portion of it. Now, then in 2021, I considered I agreed to serve as special prosecutor. I had officially resigned from my other positions. I contracted with them. This case is extremely complex. My role included a lot of work. As special prosecutor, the case required the vast majority of my time. He's totally beholden to Fani, as is reflected by my invoices. In many instances, I documented work that would have exceeded my contractual cap and did not request or receive payment for the work that I did. I actually did more work than I got paid for. Now, my private practice has continued to generate revenue separate and apart from my compensation, so that's that personal money. And that's why they want his bank accounts to see what money paid for their trips. Now, while professional associates and friends, since 2019, there was no personal relationship between Willis and me prior to or at the time of my appointment, which is very curious because he filed for divorce the next day after he signed the contract. Says Willis and I then in 2022, here's where they admit it, DA Willis and I developed a personal relationship. Oh, ooh. In addition to our professional association and friendship. Now, I have no financial interest in the outcome of this case or in the conviction of any defendant, which it's like he doesn't get a contingent fee, right? If Trump gets convicted, he doesn't make $1 million. But if the Trump case goes to trial and he's a special prosecutor, he is going to make a lot more money than if he says, you know, I've investigated this and there's no evidence here. This is ridiculous. And he makes a fair and impartial decision to dismiss it. That would go against his financial incentive massively. And Fani is getting a direct benefit from that, right? Because she's paying him that money. So no funds paid to me in my compensation for my role as special prosecutor have been shared with or provided to Fani Willis, which I think that's probably true. I think that he didn't write her a check or anything. Like, here's your cut, baby. Thanks for the contract. And here, the DA received no funds or personal financial gain, right? That's a term of art. We don't know what exactly that means, because if he paid Fulton County money for those cruise ships, that's a gain. But yeah, I would say, she probably didn't get, a bigger stock portfolio or something, but all right. I never cohabitated with DA Willis, which, would be fine if you did, I guess. The problem is that you have a conflict, not the specifics of the relationship. I never shared household expenses with Fani. Again, it's like, okay. All right. Now, I never shared a joint financial account with any kind with Willis, and we are both financially independent professionals. Expenses for personal travel, here it comes, were roughly divided equally between us. At times, I have made and purchased travel for Willis and myself from personal funds. At other times, Willis made and purchased travel for she and I using her personal funds. Examples of Willis purchasing a plane ticket for she and I with her personal funds and for our personal travel are attached. So there's nothing funny going on here. It's just two little lovebirds who are all above board, signed here by Nathan Wade. And so they've got a bunch of exhibits down here, and some of these are just monstrous images. Like you can see, he's got articles. This guy, this is an article from some time ago. He says, I worked on all these cases, Georgia's top lawyers, which a lot of these, let's see here. A lot of these you can just pay for, by the way. I don't know about these like NAACP awards, but like some of these like top lawyers, they say, you're great. Kind of hand these things out like Skittles. All right. So all of his awards. I really am qualified, I'm competent. I'm qualified. So then, here are his records. And we've seen a lot of these. A lot of money, 35 grand. It's good money, man. 1 month, 35 grand as a lawyer. That's pretty good, man. I got to tell you. It's a lot of hours that he's just billing. Boom, 37 grand that month. Team meetings. I'm doing negotiations today. We're doing team prep and motions today. 8 hours. I didn't even take a pee break. 8 hours. $2 grand. It's crazy. All right. So this is these are his exhibits. Here are your flight receipts. Okay. So here's Fani. And apparently, yeah, Fani Willis. What kind of flight did she buy? What are, they're on Delta. Oh, they didn't even sit together? Or are these on flights? two separate flights. Yeah, all right. So Fani bought some tickets as well. And it's the true love defense, man. It's the true love defense. They loved each other. They used separate funds. There's no conflicts here at all. The fact that she funneled him $1 million and he's prosecuting Trump. There's some bad words on those things. Some of their angry threats, you know, that are coming their way. And so, my friends, that is Fani Willis's response. And of course, she is totally above board. You know, she recognizes that this is not who she wanted to be. In fact, this clip came up from some time ago where she explains that people should hire her, elect her, because she would never do the things that she's been accused of doing. She would never turn her office into anything about money or sex. In fact, she would never sleep with her employees. The old guy did that. And she wouldn't do that, even though she just, you know, admitted to doing that, like literally in her own filing from Fulton County. Here's Fani.
The district attorney's office in Fulton should be the beacon of the Southeast. It should be the absolute best office between Washington, D.C. and Miami. And right now what you have is a office of dysfunction and corruption, and we deserve better. And I am the right choice to improve it.
Corruption, Ms. Willis, that's a strong word to level against the office that Paul Howard has run for nearly a quarter century. If he gets reelected, it'll be more than 25 years.
You have a DA sitting there that doesn't have the qualifications and the experience to do the job. What I can guarantee you is with my reputation, with my community ties, I am going to be able to attract the best and the brightest minds to that office. You're sitting with someone today that actually wants to make a difference because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children, because we deserve better.
Okay, not going to sleep with their employees. She just admitted in her own filing that she was sleeping with her special prosecutor, Nathan Wade, enjoying a nice Nathan hot dog. We've got here, Donald Trump responded to this thing, says, you know, Fani Willis, the DA of Fulton County, just admitted to having a sexual relationship with the prosecutor that she, in consultation with the White House and the DOJ, appointed to get President Donald J. Trump. By going after the most high-level person and the Republican nominee, she was able to get her, quote, lover much more money than she would be able to get from the prosecution of any other person or individual. That means that this scam is totally discredited and over. And I wanted to pause on this very briefly and just explain why I think we kind of want to keep Fani around. My predictions are that the judge is not going to disqualify her and not going to dismiss this case. Maybe he'll deal with this later, but I think he's going to have a tendency to want to keep things as the status quo, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Let's game this out just a little bit. Setting aside the dismissal issue. Okay, let's back up. If the judge dismisses the case, game over. That's the Super Bowl victory. It's over. We won. Don't need to think about it again. I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to say that their personal relationship doesn't taint the whole case and he can separate the two. He'll deal with some of that in voir dire. He'll deal with that in filings from the defense, make rulings on evidentiary issues and so on and so forth, but won't dismiss it. So let's set that aside. The next thing, what about disqualification? Will he say Fani's got to go and we get a new prosecutor? So let's just play that one through. If the case doesn't get dismissed, what about disqualification? Well, we could get a disqualification and the case could go to a new prosecutor. The new prosecutor could take a look at the case and dismiss it. Okay, that would be a victory. That's one possibility. Is that likely? I don't know. Probably not, because a prosecutor doesn't like to dismiss cases. They generally will keep them going. So probably unlikely, but it is a possibility. Another possibility is that a new prosecutor gets the case, Fani gets thrown off, and they're great. Like they're actually competent, right? They're actually intelligent. They actually know what they're doing, and they don't have all the partisan hack baggage that Fani Willis does. They're not banging their special counsel. You know what I'm saying? So we actually get a better, more competent prosecutor who's going to do a better job at creating this narrative and driving it home. So that's actually a bad thing. Now, on the opposite end, what if the judge does not disqualify Fani? So now we take that to the next logical step. What happens if Fani, in a rigged jurisdiction, gets a conviction? Okay, that's going to be the most illegitimate conviction anyone's ever seen, right? Everyone's going to go, oh gosh. Fani, Fulton County, the same woman who was sleeping with the special prosecutor who grifted $1 million off. The whole saga is going to be there. It's going to be a monstrous shiny object. We're going to see this big shiny object that's going to distract from the whole case. So even if she wins, right, we get this RICO charge, it's Fulton County, let's say it's blue, they vote against these defendants at a trial, no one's going to care. Everyone's going to go, oh gosh. And she's going to be this big shiny object that just hangs like an albatross around the neck of the Trump prosecutors. She's going to be so big, it's going to subsume, the big Fani is going to subsume all of the Trump prosecutions. It's going to look, that's what it looks like. Okay, they're paying him $1 million to go after Trump, and she's his lover. How is that legitimate at all? So that's if she stays on, and if she is successful, it delegitimizes the whole thing. That's a good thing. And defense attorneys oftentimes try to create their own shiny object to draw attention to that thing. You want it away from the defendant and towards the bigger thing, towards something that's distracting. This is here. They've already got it. It's right here for us. And so the fourth option, of course, is she stays on the case and loses, which is also a victory as well. So the way I see it, she's kind of a gift. And if this whole thing, her performance is very bad. So if she doubles down on this and she says, I'm not recusing, I'm staying on this case, the judge keeps her on the case, maybe she will try to run this case in August or in October. And that could really crystallize all of the critiques that we've had about these weaponized witch hunts. She's going to be the symbol for it. And I can't think of a better person, honestly. So if we're going to have a prosecutor on this case, I want Fani. She should stick around. And I think that the judge is probably going to try to craft this thing through and try to deviate away from the salaciousness, which is all true, and say the voters can deal with that, right? You guys can deal with that on your own accord. I could be wrong. We'll see where it goes. We are going to be here for the hearing on February 15th. And so make sure you're subscribed, my friends, wherever it is you're watching this. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you see it handy, we'd really appreciate that. We've also got all of the PDFs are going to be on our website, robertgovea.com. Links are down in the description below. And so we'd love to see you there. Sign up for our daily newsletter. Grab a hat from the shop so you can watch the show and look good while you're doing it. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, but we're not done with Fani yet. We're jumping into a different segment because she is having a little bit of a rough day today. In addition to that motion, Fani got subpoenaed by Congress, having a rough one. Not only is she having to deal with allegations of sexual impropriety with her special counsel, Nathan Wade, but now Congress wants to know more about those federal funds that she used, allegedly for COVID. And the story is that she and her office were not impacted by that hack that went around in Georgia. And she's also not going anywhere. CNN had some inside sources saying Fani is not stepping down. We're going to have a lot more big Fani coming through down the pike here. And so we'll jump right into what Jim Jordan sent over from Congress. You see, this is the subpoena, and it comes from Jim Jordan from Ohio. You see, he sends this one down here, signed by Jim Jordan, the chairman himself, and it goes over to Fani Willis, the Honorable District Attorney from Fulton County's office from the House of Representatives Committee on the Judiciary. They write, Dear Miss Willis, on August 24th, the Judiciary Committee sent you a letter. Hopefully you got it. Requesting documents in the custody of your office relating in part to those federal government grant funds that the DOJ gave to you. We sent you a bunch of letters. Look at these letters. And Fani has been very rude in these letters. She responds to these. She's like, get bent, you're Congress. I hate you. Don't tell me what to do. And now they're curious where this money went. Now, since that date, we've sent you 2 additional letters that she probably just threw in the garbage. September 20th, maybe she was on the cruise, maybe she didn't get them. September 27th and December 5th, reiterating our request to you. And to date, you have failed to comply voluntarily with any of our requests. And so just as a reminder, right, what Congress does is they just paper them letter 1, letter 2, letter 3. Okay, you're not sending us letters. Guess what? Now there is a subpoena. We'll see you in Congress. So the committee's oversight of your office and the use of federal grant funds is particularly relevant in light of what we have learned recently. Public whistleblower allegations that we listened to previously on this channel that your office has misused federal funding. According to a recent report, your office unlawfully, quote, planned to use part of a $488,000 federal grant that was earmarked for the creation of a Center of Youth Empowerment and Gang Prevention. You know those things. The government's going to create a Center of Youth Empowerment and Gang Prevention. What do you think is going to happen there? Probably youth disempowerment and gang creation, I would guess, to cover frivolous and unrelated expenses. All that money repurposed for MacBooks and other things. Now, the DOJ awarded this grant to Fulton County for the purpose of creating that center to work with boys and girls ages 12 to 17. But the center, through funding the grant, it was intended to establish a community network in Fulton County to identify and address service gaps and barriers and create a comprehensive system of service for youth at risk of becoming gang involved or continuing in the gang lifestyle. Specific money for that. But that's not what Fani took that money for. According to the reporting about the whistleblower's allegations, instead of using these funds and federal grants for the intended purposes of helping these at-risk youth, your office, Fani, sought to use those grant funds to, quote, get MacBooks, get swag, and use it for travel. Moreover, the whistleblower's direct supervisor stated that these planned expenditures were part of your vision, Fani, you. The whistleblower also stated that she had warned you that the use of the federal grant funds in this manner was impossible because the terms of the grant were very, very specific. Now, the whistleblower was in charge of vetting, selecting, and securing the grant partnerships and was the, quote, only contact that the DOJ had with Fulton County. And less than 2 months after receiving this warning, so this woman came into Fani's office and literally warned her. Less than 2 months after receiving this warning, you abruptly terminated the whistleblower and you had her escorted out of your office by 7 armed investigators. These allegations raise serious concerns about whether you were appropriately supervising the expenditures of federal grant funds that was allocated to your office and whether you took actions, Fani, to conceal your office's unlawful use of federal funds. Now, our previous letters, in particular the one we sent in September, we explain in detail our authority to investigate you, and that's what we're doing now. Now, to summarize that explanation, just be reminded that we have broad and indispensable power, and we can engage in inquiries to determine how our money is being spent. We have jurisdiction to conduct this oversight over you, and that's what we're doing. And you've ignored us. And potential legislative reforms are being considered, like whether we should give money to people like you and whether we should be creating penalties if you unlawfully misuse those funds. In fact, we're considering stringent automatic audit requirements for DOJ grants and other eligibility requirements based on people who use and misuse federal funds. And so the information that we requested regarding your office is necessary to inform our legislation. Now, in our prior letters, Fani, we requested several categories of material that are relevant for our oversight. However, in response to recently disclosed whistleblower allegations and as an accommodation, we are prioritizing the production of documents concerning your office's receipts and use of federal funds. And so, Fani, accordingly, please find attached a subpoena for the requested documents and the information, and we expect you to comply. Sincerely, your friend, Jim Jordan, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, sent to you from Congress on February 2nd, 2024. So we'll see what Fani does to that and regarding that subpoena, but we do finally have some action, not just another letter. An actual subpoena has gone out, and we'll see what she does in response. Now, she's under a lot of pressure there. Apparently, there was a hack in Fulton County, and they say that her office was not affected by the hack. And we're thinking, oh, great. That's interesting. What's interesting about this, Trump's main allegation is that there was widespread fraud and that the systems were all susceptible to attack and to hacks. Well, apparently there was a hack in Georgia, but all the hacks never impact the election system. And so there is no reasonable way that Trump could ever think that there was any possible thing wrong with the election at all. It's the only system in America that is completely robust and has no problems. Now, she says that the Trump case was not affected by the hack. Officials said court and other systems in Georgia were hacked over the weekend, interrupting routine operations. But the racketeering case is unaffected. There was a widespread system outage, a cybersecurity incident. Like, by the way, like they're prosecuting Trump's people for investigating cybersecurity issues related to the election. And they admit like our whole system just got hacked to bits. County Commissioner Chair posted a video. He said the outage is affecting the county's phone, courts, and tax systems. But the racketeering case is not affected. Said all material related to the case is kept in a separate, highly secured system that was not hacked and is designed to make any unauthorized access extremely difficult. But she said that their operations were being drastically affected. Yeah, so the systems were out. I tried to go pull some records and it said inaccessible. Visitors to the website said temporarily unavailable. Additionally, the statement said that the Atlanta Public Department was not sending emails or opening emails from the DA's office because they were concerned that their systems were hacked. Fulton County grand jury indicted Trump for investigating hacking in the election. The irony is not, evident on the face for these people. There's no estimate when the outage would be repaired. Got it. That's Georgia. Incredible, right? So we also have Fani saying, I'm not going anywhere, so get used to me. And that's not a bad thing. I think Fani's probably the worst prosecutor that they could find for this case. And so I guess if we're going to have one, might as well have her. Fulton County, Fani says, I got no plans to step down, even if I'm having an affair with my lead prosecutor. And he's not going to go anywhere either. So she's just going to keep him on the payroll and keep everything right on the track. Staying around, even though she's having an affair, a decision driven in part over concern that her departure would end the case against Trump. See what this is all about. And his multiple defendants. I can't go. If I leave, this is not going to happen before the election. The sprawling racketeering case still has no trial date, and Willis and her team are keenly aware that the window to go to trial before 2024 is rapidly shrinking. Now, any change in the team handling the prosecution would likely delay the proceedings, and they can't have that. Otherwise, what's the point? It's unclear if another prosecutor would even be inclined to take the case, which is concerning, isn't it? The fact that CNN even acknowledges this, like any other prosecutor would say, I wouldn't touch that case with a Nathan's Wade's hot dog, man. Get that away from me. Willis has faced immense public scrutiny since allegations first surfaced that she was indicting her own special prosecutor. Instead, she's preparing counter arguments, and we read through many of those. Crucial weeks ahead. McAfee scheduled a hearing for the 15th. CNN reported defense attorneys issued a dozen subpoenas. And of course, we cannot wait to review. Now, here is what someone said. Norm Eisen, he said she should voluntarily step aside, even if they're not disqualified. I agree with that. I think that would be the smartest play. Like if you're playing a chess game, okay, one of you got to go. And that's going to bring back some appearance of propriety. But we'll see if they do that. Like if maybe Wade would go, that would also be a smart play to make Wade go. But apparently sources said there are no immediate plans for Wade to step down. But if he did, Willis could replace him with another lead prosecutor. And then that would cause that would bring back some semblance of propriety. But in fact, I think that's probably the most likely outcome, or that would be the most intelligent outcome for them. But I'm not sure that they're going to do that. I think that they're going to double down on this and say, we're under attack. It's racist, bigoted, Trumpers who are attacking us. And they're doing social justice, right? You hear this social justice warrior mentality. This is what she thinks she's doing right now. So we're going to be covering this as it continues, my friend. We'll see if Jim Jordan gets a response from her or what happens there, right? It's a subpoena now, so things escalate if she doesn't respond. And she'll be a lot more inclined to respond to this one. what she says, we'll see. We'll be here continuing to cover it, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Don't forget to hit that like button. I'd really appreciate that. We got our whole website down in the description below, robertgovea.com. Shop is there. PDFs are there. All the reports are there. We'll look forward to seeing you there and back here on the next one. And we got one final segment on the day, my friends. And this one will be involving Jack Smith and Representative Luna. Let's see what is inside. Jack Smith gets scolded by Representative Luna. She says, "Did you even consider presidential immunity before you tried to indict Donald Trump?" Probably not. Her letter goes into it, but she's also scolding him because he didn't respond. She sent the letter to Jack Smith specifically, and he had one of his underlings do the writing back. And she says, "I'm irritated about this." Representative from Congress, Paulina Luna says, "My colleagues and I, we have grave constitutional concerns about the appointment of Jack Smith. That's why I am demanding answers from him." And he has 9 days to respond. Clock is ticking. We'll see what she does when he doesn't. But here is the letter that went over to him from Paulina Luna. She's over in Florida. From the House of Representatives, sent this to Jack Smith, the so-called special counsel. Some people say he's illegally constituted. He's illegally appointed. The J6 committee is illegally constituted. It's hard to keep track of all the illegal entities around here. But this is what they write. "Dear Mr. Jack, we are in receipt of a letter that you sent back to us, but for some reason, it came from this guy, Carlos Uriarte." She said, "That's pretty weird, because although our letter was directed to you, it's unclear whether the department or Mr. Uriarte provided you with our letter or whether you were consulted in their response. So he sent us a letter, but we don't know if your input was there." So both the department's response from Carlos and the DOJ underscore why we need congressional oversight, saying neither the American people nor Congress have any insight, Jack, into whether your actions have been subject to any oversight, whether they're congressional or otherwise. And although Carlos and his correspondence refers to the regulations that, quote, permit the AG to request that the special counsel provide an explanation for any investigative or prosecutorial step your office may take in regulations that we cited to you, buddy, that Uriarte does not address whether any such oversight has in fact occurred. So we were asking about whether oversight has in fact occurred. You just said that it can occur. Like you said, well, it's permitting this and this is what could happen. And so we don't care about that. We know the rules. Did it happen or not? Now, we are unpersuaded by the DOJ and your reference to the long-standing protections of confidentiality. They say, yeah, there is historical precedent, for congressional oversight of a purportedly independent prosecution. And he's not independent. He's a special counsel, not an independent prosecutor. Specifically in the regulations that were promulgated by Robert Bork back in 1973, when he appointed Leon Jaworski back during the Watergate scandal, Bork required the congressional consent for any termination of Jaworski, which was an explicit acknowledgement that the DOJ played a critical role and Congress had a critical role in the independent investigation. Okay, so you couldn't get rid of him without the consent of Congress. Our core concern here, though, Jack, is how your office has administered the law, and our legislative function is to assess whether the law has been implemented as intended or whether it requires change. Now, we are confident that we have legislative authority to investigate this here. The functions of the DOJ and the Attorney General are all subject of congressional legislation, and therefore, we can inquire, investigating why the DOJ did not initiate prosecutions or why it did in Trump's case would require our office to review your deliberations and to determine your theory of its case. Now, we cannot evaluate these decisions in the abstract, and so but we have congressional power to examine them. Now, recent actions by your office exacerbate our concern. We're worried that there is no oversight over your investigation, Jack. For example, you wrote in your Supreme Court petition that's in front of the Supreme Court, you said that we have to vindicate the public interest in this case, and that in order to do so, we need an immediate resolution of this immunity issue, which is knocking on the door at the Court of Appeals. We're waiting on a ruling for them, saying that we need to get this decision so we can get the trial back on track. But the criminal justice system is not a vehicle to inform the electorate. It's not what we use the law for. And any such interest that you want to have a trial quickly, that does not overcome the judiciary's interest in ascertaining whether a case is in fact justiciable. So she's asking about immunity and basically, Jack, like, we know you want a trial, but what was your process when you decided whether to even bring this case or not? Indeed, as you're no doubt aware, department regulations caution against taking action that could impermissibly interfere with an election. And so your petition to the SCOTUS also is concerning for what it lacks. Apparently, there's no endorsement of the U.S. Solicitor General. Now, as you're undoubtedly aware, the Solicitor General, the person who is actually appointed by the president and is confirmed with advice and consent of the Senate, is responsible for representing the U.S. before SCOTUS. Now, our interest is whether the Solicitor General was consulted is more than semantic. As we articulated previously, your actions reflect that of a, quote, principal officer and not an inferior officer, as Uriarte blanketly contends. And this goes back to that Ed Meese issue, the former AG, who says that Jack Smith is acting as somebody who needs to be appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, and he has not. So most recently, even your purported representation, in other words, Jack Smith is illegitimate. He's taking actions as a principal officer and he wasn't appropriately appointed that way. Most recently, even your purported representation of the interests of the American people, that was belied by your position taken in the Court of Appeals. In that argument, James Pierce from your office, he conceded for the first time ever that a former president, can enjoy immunity from prosecution, while simultaneously claiming that such a question need not be resolved in regards to President Trump. So even though the situation described by Mr. Pierce is nearly identical to that confronted by your prosecution of Trump in the first place. So in other words, your own people say that immunity might apply. Now that key concession contradicts the position that was taken by your office. You said there was no immunity. So at this juncture, the concession reflects an acknowledgement of the important constitutional questions raised by this prosecution. Did you investigate immunity before you brought this case? Did you even make a determination that you were allowed to prosecute before you did? Or did you just race it so quickly because you knew you had to get it done before the election? Accordingly, we need the following information from you, Jack. All documents about your decision and your authority to impanel a grand jury in D.C. and in Florida. All documents about your authority to offer immunity to people testifying before the jury. All documents and communications about your authority to seek return of an indictment from either a grand jury, and all documents about communications between your office concerning your decision to return an indictment of Trump. We ask for a response no later than February 9th of this year, and we thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, your friends, Anna Paulina Luna. We got Michael Cloud, Marjorie Taylor Greene's in the house, Eric Burlinson, Byron Donalds is here, Lauren Boebert, and Tim Burchett, all signing off on this, demanding some answers from Jack Smith. We'll see what he does. My guess is he doesn't respond to any of it. They send another letter, or maybe the next step is a subpoena, just like the one we saw from Jim Jordan over to Fani Willis. So more pressure on the special counsel's office. This is an exchange of George Conway, who has some Trump problems, is not a fan of him at all. And what's curious about this is they just keep talking about platitudes, or we'll call them demagogues, as suggested. They make up statements that make Trump sound very bad, but a lot of it is mostly meaningless. And we've seen this before. They say Trump's going to undermine the Constitution. Okay, how? Trump's never going to leave office. Okay, he did last time. What's your basis for that? What's your evidence? Trump is going to undermine the Constitution or American democracy, or Trump's an egomaniac, right? He's all about self-aggrandizement, all the language, you know what it is. What's curious about this one is he is referencing the attacks that have been brought by the left as evidence of success. Okay, so it's not even Trump's own statements. It's their attacks that have led to convictions in the case of like a convicted perjurer, Michael Cohen, or like Alan Weisselberg, the CFO. That's the evidence. So it's a sneaky little adjustment. Here's how it sounds.
We've seen numerous circumstances where Trump has gotten people to lie or obstruct justice or perform illegal acts to protect him, even sometimes when he hasn't even asked them to do it. They understand what he wants them to do. I mean, you see all these people who were indicted, including his own chief of staff at the White House in Georgia. We've seen Michael
by Fani Willis, which is totally illegitimate.
Cohen. We've seen
convicted perjurer who's flipped more times than anyone can count.
Weisselberg previously.
Also knocked out by Letitia James, who ran on prosecuting Trump.
It's just, Donald Trump is just a cloud of deception.
You see what I'm saying? Like there's nothing there. There's no meaning there.
And he creates a culture of lying and deception and illegality wherever he goes. And if you are...
No, he didn't. You guys did that. Letitia James did that. Fani Willis did that. They're illegitimate, as we've already talked about. So they cite their own track record of lawfare as evidence that Trump is bad.
Are associated with him, you have to be very, very careful. You're taking a risk. I mean, there are lawyers who are losing their licenses and threatening.
Because the left is making that happen. Because the 65 Project and other groups are trying to take out the lawyers.
Are being threatened with losing their licenses for defending him. And it never, ever stops with him. He expects people to do illegal things for him.
Crazy, right? So they're leading that prosecution. They can't come up with anything really concrete. So they result to going back to their own lawfare. Like, what is your point? What is the evidence that Trump is going to do something bad? It's the things that they've already attacked him on. Right. So they create their own attacks. It's wild. So here's another exchange. Now, this one's, kind of it's kind of Trumpy. And you always got to question what Roberta Kaplan says. But here is an exchange. We know George Conway, that guy we just heard from, started his own podcast now because they're all Trump podcasters now. They can't do anything else with their lives meaningful. So this is what they turn to. And apparently Roberta Kaplan was on there. And Trump said, I really enjoyed talking to you, and I can't wait to see you next Tuesday.
Roberta Kaplan, the lead attorney who helped clinch a whopping $83 million verdict for Trump accuser E. Jean Carroll, is spilling some serious tea on a podcast with George Conway, who introduced Kaplan, by the way, to E. Jean Carroll.
She did, at a party, and then connected them with Reid Hoffman, who paid for the whole thing.
Kaplan went into juicy detail about what it was like to depose the former president behind closed doors at Mar-a-Lago. Take a listen.
Which is wild. So CNN is replaying clips from a George Conway podcast, which is an anti-Trump podcast. That's what CNN's doing now.
We have a court reporter. We have a videographer. They're entitled to a lunch break. You're here at Mar-a-Lago. What do you think you're going to do for lunch? Where are you going to get lunch? And so I said to him, well, I raised this question with your attorneys yesterday, sir, and they graciously offered to provide us with lunch. At which point there was a huge pile of documents, exhibits sitting in front of him, and he took the pile and he just threw it across the table. He looks at me from across the table and he says, see you next Tuesday. You could tell it was like a kind of a joke, again, like teenage boys would come up with. And my colleagues are like, Robbie, do you know what that means? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? They tell me, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I didn't know, because had I known, I for sure would have gotten angry.
My panel is back.
So CNN cuts from that, and I don't know if that happened or not, but it's a funny story.
With me.
So then they come back and they're going to have a whole panel on it, okay, from CNN. All right? Hey, let's talk about Trump. He said a mean phrase. He said some mean words. Okay, it's all demagoguery. It's all platitudes. They don't even talk about substance or policy. They're going to go on for 4 minutes talking about what Roberta Kaplan said on George Conway's podcast. That's CNN. It's so embarrassing. No wonder nobody watches them anymore, and they're on their way out. My friends, they're pathetic. We're going to be here continuing to cover their insanity. Hopefully you join us as we do. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you're watching this, my friends. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for checking out robertgovea.com, grabbing a hat, grabbing some gear, looking good while you're watching the show. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, that is it for us on the day. We got Representative Luna, Jack Smith getting into it. Fani gets a subpoena from Congress. We'll see if she responds to that. We've got also the big response from Fani saying that, yeah, there was a personal relationship, but the case has no taint. There is no taint in this case. Show taint, a bit of taint. And so now, my friends, let us hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this. Of course, thank you for joining us today. And when we're done here, we're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party to say hello and to see who is joining us. If you're a YouTube member and you just joined us, don't forget to grab that Telegram link. It is in the community tab section on YouTube. Just scroll down, grab that Telegram link. That's where you'll find the after party. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. Today, we got this one from Lady Ice on Local. Says, Rob, have you seen this? They're talking about trying to change the presidential power of the military ahead of an election in case Trump wins. And no, I've not seen that, but that looks interesting. The plot against Trump. We got Posh says February is going to be explosive. Posh Hawk in the house. What's up, Posh Hawk? You're right. So we're going to have the Fani Willis hearing on the 15th. I think we've got some SCOTUS stuff coming up. I think we got like some deadlines for SCOTUS. We have oral arguments for SCOTUS. I'm not sure, but Posh, very nice dono. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for being over on Locals. We're glad to have you. Catherine Rex is our newest supporter over on YouTube. What's up, Catherine? Very nice to see you. Welcome aboard. Sandy says the Fani hearing, the 15th, Bragg case, the 15th, SIPA hearing, Feb 12 through 13, Engeron ruling mid-Feb. All these cases are going to clog the mainstream media reporting. The Fani case is going to get covered up. I don't know. I think there's a lot of interest in that one. Feb 15 is going to be a good one. A lot of stuff is happening right around that time, but yeah, we'll see. It's going to be, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a lot. Hey, King Ginger says, I think demagoguery and false dichotomy are the words that you're looking for. Demagoguery, I think, is the good one. Yeah, that's a good one. It's kind of the, it has a negative connotation when you, it's like platitudes, but with a negative connotation, which is really what I was going for. Thanks, King Ginger. Great to see you. Hey, Catherine, it says, you've been a member for 7 months. I thought it said you just signed up, but 7 months is great. 7 months, amazing. 2 months remaining, and then we have our baby. Good to see you, Catherine. Thanks for being a member for 7 months, and I think for signing up again. I don't know what that was, but amazing. What's up, Rich? Rich Abbey is in the house. Thank you for sending the dono in, Rich. I appreciate you. Happy Friday to you, my friend. We got Stop Sniffing Kids. Joe has been a member for 8 months. Only 1 month left to our baby. Says the salt has been lovely. Love your show, Rob. Yeah, well, there's a lot of salt out there coming from multiple directions. Thanks, Stop Sniffing Kids, Joe, for being in the house. We got Maria. Maria K says, anti-platitudians. I need a word for DEI. Direct evidence inescapable, irreplaceable, invaluable. Yeah, that's a lot of options there. Yeah, anti-platitudians. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good one. Throw your comments there in the chat for Maria, my friends. Direct evidence inescapable, something else for DEI, something else in there. Sandy says, if Fani really believed this was filed in bad faith, she would have sent a Rule 11 sanctions if the motion isn't withdrawn. So don't believe that. This is bluster. Lady I says, okay, so here's a word of the day. Hippo, wow, that's a big one. This is a fear of long words, which is hippopotamonstrosausa equidopilacophilia phobia, which means a fear of long words. That was a scary word right there. Thank you, Lady Ice. Cindy says, Wade was not even hired legally. The county did not approve his hire. He filled out no forms. So any investigations he did are not legal. You must throw out everything that he gave to the grand jury. There was a little bit of that in the motion. We'll see if the judge agrees. I'm not sure the judge is going to agree. We'll see. Yeah, a lot of those technicalities, like they're kind of true, but the courts just kind of like, they kind of, you know, they find ways to shoehorn it in. Wendy, what's up? Bringing in 5 new membos. Marion G, unknown artist, Linda H, Renee G, and Betsy's all coming in courtesy of Wendy W. Welcome to our newest membos. Don't forget to grab that Telegram link, my friends. And thank you, Wendy, for bringing in 5 new membos. Quarter Native says, Fani has a lot of cojones to go into a church and complain about catching flack for committing adultery. I know, the audacity, the sheer and utter gall. She thinks she's untouchable. I think you're right about that, which is why I don't think she's going to go anywhere. Like, she thinks she's literally above it all. And that kind of arrogance and bravado, the higher you are, the harder you fall. This old guy says, when I think of Nathan and Fani in flagrante, my mind's eye starts to bleed. In flagrante. That's a good one. Nathan and Fani in flagrante. That's amazing. Yeah, I can understand that. I can relate. Glocky's here. Hey, rest in peace to Carl Weathers. Yeah, everything from Predator to Happy Gilmore. Oh, man. Chubbs, right? From Happy Gilmore. But mostly remembered for his awesome role being Apollo Creed. And I really liked him in, Predator with Arnold. Yeah, rest in peace, Carl Weathers. Rest in peace. Look at that photo, man. Dude was shredded. We got this. What's up? NY says, both Fani and Wade met at the White House. How is that anything but political collusion? I'd love to see the White House counsel's assertion of attorney-client privileges here. Biden's prosecution of his rival is obvious and based on what the cases show, should be thrown out. Says, Fani chose to prosecute. It isn't even clear she had jurisdiction to bring these charges. She doesn't represent the state like the AG. Just because her county encompasses the state capital, she assumed this power to bring charges with the most of alleged crimes outside of Georgia. From NY. This one from Glocky says, here you go, people. Word of the day. When you look at this word up, you will then know what the Democrats and the courts in D.C. are. Here, Glocky says, speaking of Fani calling everyone racist, sharing a post from Libs of TikTok. Fred Pedamonte says, innuendo, you accused Wade's wife of an affair. She did do that in her filing. She did say that Nathan basically, she stepped out on him first. And he ran into Fani's arms because he was hurt and heartbroken. NY says, I will point out one reason you shouldn't be having professional relationships with subordinates. If Wade was engaging in illegality, say not going through discovery, Fani would be obligated to step in and correct that. She'd have to discipline him. The fact that the personal relationship makes that less likely, that's why there is a conflict. Glocky says, can her and Wade's finances be subpoenaed by the Georgia Senate and their special counsel they formed? And can they get the divorce documents and compel them to testify about the money? Bunch of good questions there, Glocky. I don't know. Can they get the divorce documents? I don't think so. I think that they're basically going to settle that up and call it a day. I think they don't want that to expand any further. NY says, so Fani didn't disclose the relationship it had to discover. If she had disclosed, she could have had the judge and a neutral party decide. She didn't take that, so it leaves a mark and it taints the jurisdiction. Glocky says, keep your heads up, people. And like Kamala says, yesterday was today. NY says, at this point, the Georgia case is over. What is in the debate now is what's going to happen to Fani. Lady Ice says, sounds like ChatGPT wrote this. NY says, competent people can behave inappropriately, but Fani cannot supervise Wade. If there was prosecutorial misconduct, then she is biased. Chris says, hello, ladies and everyone. Hello, ladies and everyone. What's up, Tanya? Tanya sent this one in. Thank you, Tanya, for sending this one in. Says just one for you. Thank you, Tanya. Thanks for being a member as well, Tanya. Very nice to see you. Savdi says, maybe Fani's motion was written by AI, just like Michael Cohen's. That's a good one, maybe. Didn't cite any bad cases. We'll have to wait and see for that one. We got Tanya. Another one from Tanya. Thank you for that one, Tanya. Two from Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Just for you. Thank you, Tanya. NY says, the fact that Wade is a judge is worse. He should know better. How can Fani suggest it's okay to hire a special prosecutor, have him bill for hours when he was on a cruise with her? That's supervision? Rob says, Jordan sent a letter to Fani's office. They want an audit on those funds. We read that, Rob. A whistleblower came forward and said that Fani used the federal money improperly and gave us a link to the letter. You must have sent that before we went through it there, Rob. But thanks for sending that in. I think that was the same one that we read through, right? Fred says Willis called Johnny to write her motion. We remember Johnny, Fred? Johnny's this little rascally fella right here at the Fred Pedemonte household. He must have been drunk or something, right? NY says, on YouTube, you can see several judges from Fulton County. They talk about the backlog of COVID. Non-convicted people stay in jail sometimes 2 years unindicted. I was outraged when that was happening. The judges say it affects everyone, so it's fair. Fani's waste of money is disgusting. I hope the people of Atlanta realize it. Lady Ice says, if that case Wade lists for Cobb County at $5.50 an hour, that's untrue because he ended up doing that whole case from no charge from what I read. And Y says, you can't be effing your boss. It's not a qualification. He wasn't appointed by the legislature. His position is contingent on Fani's, and it can only be professional. Lady Ice, what were the dates of the tickets? CA says, what about the G on the ticket purchases, which means government fare? I don't know. That's another good question. Chappaquiddick says, Fani calls out Chesebro's counsel as an example of lawyers with live interest, but he gone. Well, Chesebro took a guilty plea, that's for sure, too. Dolphin Fan is the man, bringing in 5 new membos. We got Joseph P., Bat Lady, Donna G's coming in, Jerry C., and Mike M. coming in, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man in the house. NY says, can't they call Fani Wade as a witness for the White House meeting? And what about appellate grounds? Says Georgia and Fulton County should know they will suffer for funding the illegitimate prosecution. Congress should write them out of the funding. Shablam says, dude, good to see you, Shablam. And dude is right. NY says, can't wait for Goldman, how he dances on these racial topics and how much money was meant for African-American youths, but were used for a booty call. Rob says, here's a quote from Marjorie. Fani Willis is engaged in a political witch hunt against Trump, and she's likely guilty of some of the very same things that he did. And I fully support bringing Fani before the House Judiciary Committee. Gentifer says, join late, but I'll catch up later. And no, President Trump, we patriots are not tired of winning. All the cases are backfiring on the corrupt DOJ. Says Boomerang, Deranged Smith, James and Bragg and Big Fani are all going to be arrested for election interference, along with the corrupt, depraved judges. This one from Lady Ice is a picture of Fani. Lady Ice says, OMG, I just got it. My husband had to explain what see you next Tuesday means. Oh, gosh. That's a fun one. Yeah, and she didn't get it either. You're not alone. B.H. Williams says, say it taint so. Dan, been a membo for 6 months. What's up, Dan? Thanks for that. Says, thanks, bud. Great video. 6 months. Thank you, Dan. Half of a year, man. Very grateful for that. Flanders says, I still can't figure out the after party, LOL. Well, you just got to go, to the community tab section, scroll all the way down, grab the Telegram link. And once you grab that Telegram link, we can take a look at that one. Flanders, thank you for that. Marcus Aurelius says, watch for a major news distraction on February 15th. I think that could probably be true as well. And Rick says, what does the J6 being off the DC public docket mean for Smith? It just means the calendar, the court's calendar that says like there's a trial in this courtroom. It doesn't have the schedule for a trial in that courtroom, but the case is still going. Trump's case has not been dismissed. They just took like you plan a vacation. We're going to go in January. We're going to go to this cruise and block out that week. They blocked out the week on the public docket calendar for the courts. They just took it off the calendar. So the trial's not going to happen in March, is our guess, because there's just not enough time. That's all, though. What's up, Deanne? Deanne Elliott says, thank you. Thank you, Deanne. What a nice thing to say. Thank you for saying thank you. I appreciate that. And thanks for being here. B.H. Williams says, apparently Chutkan indefinitely postponed the D.C. trial. True, kind of. If the Court of Appeals dismisses the claim because they find that Trump had ultimate immunity, the case is going to be dismissed, so there will be no trial. But I don't think that they will do that. Then the case will come back down to Judge Chutkan's courtroom, and then she'll reschedule the trial. We got Red One says, how come Alina is off the case? Well, because it's going on appeal. Yeah, so this is very normal. A lot of the people on the left are like, Alina's not going to appeal the case. That's a good thing. You always get not always, but almost always, you get an appellate lawyer who is very good at appeals to do the appeal. And she's not an appellate lawyer. We got Lady Ice says, I don't think that any one of these people will resign or back down, not just because they think they're above it all, but because the process is the punishment. This is all part of the bigger plan to tie Trump up, drain his money and energy, take pride. People take pride in playing their part. So they don't care about the cost no matter what. And I agree with that. I think that there's a real concern about that with the Democrats. Like the Democrats will do basically anything, whatever they can do to win. They'll do anything to win. And just look at some of the people who were involved with the Clintons. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's say thank you, my friends, for those very generous donos. I'm very grateful for those. Thanks for sending them in. Our friends on YouTube, our friends on Rumble, and our friends on Locals. Very nice to see everybody. Now let's see what is happening on the X platform before we go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We've got, oh man, hey, a fanny pack from our friend Paul Minot. Paul Minot created a fanny pack. It's a great idea if it's coming true. A fanny pack. It's not a bad idea. What would we put on there? What's up, Paul Minot? It's Meme Friday. It's Meme Friday from Paul Minot. Meme Friday here on X. And that's your boy with my Field of Greens hat. My Field of Greens hair. What's up, Vianticus? He says, the way to truly destroy a people is to elevate them. They will never see their graves as they're dug below the victims. That's an interesting phrase. Then once you remove that elevation, it's easy to make those people disappear forever. What's up, James Pepper? Says, okay. Says, NY courthouse is on a radium plant. That's not good. Yep, so Dark Side's here. What's up, Dark Side? Says, apparently Chutkin has nuked the trial date, the March 4th trial date. Yeah, I do not think that's going to happen. It's been like 2 months, I think. When did the appeal happen? December 9th-ish? So January 9th, February 9th, it's 2 months. So even if they came back, so like March plus 2 months, April, May, she'd have to reschedule it for sometime in May. Hey, what's up, hip hop thinker? Good to see you. Irene says, seems to me justice can be twisted depending on the day. I'm not sure it was ever meant to be that way. That was a rhyme. JB says, another one is see you in Texas. See you in Texas. Yeah, that's another one. I hadn't thought of that one. And hey, JB says, party at Wade's ex-wife house this weekend. Party at Wade's ex-wife's house this weekend. Let's go hang out with Jocelyn. Yeah. I wonder if Jocelyn would, if she could throw like a banger party. Not like that. Not like a fanny party. That's not what I'm talking about. Like a great party. She could invite all the media over. Like, like I'm free. I don't need a man party, something like that. That'd be fun. Go hang out with her. All right, my friends, thank you for sending those in on the X platform. Very appreciative of those. We got Kevlar in the house. Says, yo, with the side of dude. Yo, dude. What's up, Kevlar? Thank you for the dono, my friend. Thanks for being a membo. And yo to you. And dude, right back at you, my friend. All right, and so we are going to wrap it up right there, my friends, and head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party where we're going to hang out and debrief a little bit more. And so come and join us over there. We also do Saturday streams. We do streams in the morning. We did a stream this morning already before this show even started. And so if you want to join us in the morning streams, it's a great way to do it. We talk about all sorts of other stuff that we can't get to here. We have a lot of fun with our amazing membos. We also have streams on Saturday. And so we'll be back here tomorrow on Saturday to get into the Saturday affairs and see what's happening there. We'd love to see you. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Come on over for our after party happening now. We also have our website, robertgovea.com. Any PDFs that you want to see, they're all there. We upload them there along with summarized reports of the segment. So if you can't read the full segment or watch the full segment, just read the report. We also appreciate you sharing the reports with friends and families, helping them come back to the website, sign up for the newsletter, forward the emails. The real goal here is to chronicle what they are doing, making it easy for other people to see and access it so that they can realize what's going on and then vote accordingly, intelligently at the next election. So I'm really grateful for your shares. They help people see what's happening. And so thank you for heading to robertgovea.com as well. Want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly on the channel. Our friends The Antikiss Prime in the house. Our friend K Bean. We got Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, our friend Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, modding down the fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly. Our friend Sleepy Dog Lee back on X, Gigum Gigum over on Locals, and of course Nathan NA10 all memeing the fort down for us and doing a great job of it. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day and on the week. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. We'd love to see you there, but if not, well, I hope you unplug this weekend. I hope you're able to step outside of politics a little bit for a little while. Go spend some time with the family, the friends, the people that we love. Get outside, get some vitamin D, some sunshine, some movement, some fresh air, whatever it is you got to do to recharge your batteries, to plug yourself in, and to get re-energized, because we need to get you recharged and ready to go, because we're just getting started. We've got a long road ahead, and we are going to be back here on Monday to do it all again. And we need to see you right back here and ready to go, so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night and a beautiful weekend, my friends. See you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.